Dear friends, today we will talk about how Little Breed's father almost ran out of resources and still could not unite the kingdom. Today, let's talk about an incident that happened in England recently. The whole country is busy hunting for criminals. On October 24, a British prison mistakenly released a prisoner named Hadish Kabatu. He was an illegal immigrant from Ethiopia. He was arrested and imprisoned in July for sexually assaulting a 14-year-old girl. He was released after serving less than 3 months. When he was released from prison, he was very confused. He knew that England was free and lenient, but he did not expect that British law was so lenient. The crime of sexually assaulting a child was only sentenced to 2 months in prison. The prison staff not only released him but also gave him £76 before sending him away so that he could have a good meal. The next day, during roll call, Essex prison realized, hey, where's anyone? After checking, they discovered, oh, thank goodness, it's not an escape, we just accidentally released him. Then they quickly called the police to help arrest him. When they heard that the prisoner had escaped to London, they quickly called the London police. But perhaps London was too busy arresting people. Prisons were also neglected. On October 29, London prison accidentally released another prisoner, Prasan Sharif. He was also an illegal immigrant. He was arrested last November for indecent exposure and this June for armed robbery. He was released after less than 6 months in prison. Of course, that was all bad news. There was also good news. London prison didn't know he had been released. If they didn't know, they wouldn't know. 6 days later, when the prison staff took roll call, they discovered that Sharif was missing. The first thing they did was check to see if there was a hole in his cell. Oh, there wasn't one. Luckily, he didn't escape. They quickly checked to see if anyone else had been released. The alarm went off, and they also released a conman named Smith. After learning about this serious incident, reporters immediately questioned Justice Minister Rami. After all, he was in charge of prison affairs. So how could he handle such things? Rami told reporters, I don't know. I don't know the details. Who was released? What happened? Tell me. After learning the whole story, Justice Minister Raymond Lamy was furious. He had just been promoted to Deputy Prime Minister and also held the position of Justice Minister. When he took office, he vowed to implement the most rigorous interrogation system in history to bring all criminals to justice. Hero is back. During the subsequent parliamentary questioning, Conservative MP James Cartridge immediately raised a series of questions. Who else was released? Who is responsible? Are there any clues about the prisoner? Does the Prime Minister know about this? What is the Justice Minister doing? Why did it take so long to report? Answer me. Lamy replied that there is only one person responsible, your Conservative government. Your government has made 800 mistakes. 800. This situation has lasted for a generation. It's all your fault. What right do you have to lecture me? I am the Deputy Prime Minister, the Under-Secretary of State. The responsibility of the British Empire rests on my shoulders. I am cleaning up your mess. Meanwhile, Labour Prime Minister Starmer, speaking publicly about the prisoner release, he claimed that it was all due to the negligence of the previous Conservative government. He said, if they had not made the country like this, how could it have ended like this? I realized that it was my responsibility to stand up and clean up the mess caused by the Conservative Party. Even if I failed, I would fight to the end. He added, there is a famous Jewish saying, anyone can endure victory, but only the strong can endure defeat. Later, Conservative Shadow Justice Secretary Robert Zarek commented, that doesn't sound Jewish. It sounds like Hitler. Of course, it doesn't matter who said it, the important thing is, hey man, you've been in power for over a year and you're still blaming us. You're going too far. Starmer, what you need to do is take control, not blame. In fact, neither side can blame the other for wrongful releases, they both share responsibility. Between 2015 and 2025, the UK mistakenly released 923 prisoners. During the 9 years of Conservative rule, 661 were mistakenly released, including 115 in 2024 alone. After the Conservatives came to power, that rate increased by 128% by 2025. In just 1 year, they mistakenly released 262 prisoners, an average of 5 per week. Not counting weekends, that's about 1 prisoner per week. More abstractly, there was the case of Ryan Blaine, an armed robber sentenced to 9 years in prison, who was mistakenly released after only 2 years. The first thing he did after his release was pose for a photo next to a police car to mock the British Ministry of Justice for incompetence. Although both prisoners were eventually recaptured, Home Secretary Jenrick continued to accuse Rami of shirking his duties, questioning what he had done while the prisoners were mistakenly released and why it had taken him 5 days to find out. Rami, however, was quite honest. He said, I went shopping. Since I was about to get promoted, I thought I would buy a new suit to show off. Besides, the Prime Minister wasn't there. He said he would watch the meeting and see how I performed. So I thought I should dress up. Besides, all the prisoners have been recaptured. Do you really need to keep attacking me? The 2 prisoners were brought back. But what about the other 260? Your entire prison system is broken. It needs to be thoroughly investigated. You can't investigate everything, can you? What if something goes wrong? So when Labour and the Conservatives are arguing, I think everyone is aware of one problem. Where has the Prime Minister gone? Why is he away from home? Starmer went to Brazil to attend the UN Climate Change Conference. Normally, the Climate Secretary would attend such events. But because the situation in the UK is so chaotic, the Climate Secretary did not dare to go. After all, the British people are not only facing rising living costs but also Labour's tax hikes. Now, even buying a piece of meat is a struggle for survival. How can you have the courage to participate in climate discussions? Wouldn't that just invite more criticism? So he considered not going. Because people don't know what you're doing or what you're doing wrong. But Starmer didn't agree. He insisted on going because he had previously formed an alliance with Brazil. An anti-OPEC alliance to promote renewable energy and reduce energy costs. Starmer thought he could use this opportunity to recruit some people. The big countries will definitely attend this UN climate change conference. With my connections, shouldn't all the other big countries like the US, China, India and Russia give me face and join the alliance? My brother, the US, should at least put in a good word for me. With their support, Britain can become a world leader in renewable energy. So I had to go to this conference. However, after learning of the Prime Minister's departure, British Climate Secretary Katie White said that attending the climate conference was the Prime Minister's personal decision and had nothing to do with her. She told him that it was a waste of money and that he insisted on attending. So people should criticize him, not her. In fact, Prime Minister Starmer was also worried about being criticized. Unlike the last time when he brought a large press corps, this time he brought no press corps, only a few trusted reporters. He thought, when countries join my Green Coalition, you can report on my image of glory and power, and help boost my approval ratings. But when he arrived, the reporters were stunned. It turned out that their Prime Minister had lost face. It was because of the small British coalition that supported him. Throughout the conference, Starmer enthusiastically touted the benefits of joining his alliance. But no country wanted to join. Not even the East Indies. Even the smaller countries ignored him. As for his brother, America, they didn't even attend the meeting. Now, reporters couldn't help but report on his misfortunes. After all, they had come all the way here. They couldn't leave without news. To the point where the press reported Starmer running around naked, embarrassing himself. As for Starmer's desperate attempt to regain his popularity, it was near rock bottom. In the latest poll, Labour's approval rating had plummeted to 20%, a 15-point gap with the leader, and they were overtaken by the Conservatives. As for Prime Minister Starmer, only 13% of voters were satisfied with him, while 79% were dissatisfied. This is the lowest approval rating ever for a British Prime Minister. Everyone thought Starmer's rise to power would make history. But on closer inspection, it was all broken records. Regarding the plummeting support rate, in my opinion, the attitude of the Labour Party is both pessimistic and optimistic. Pessimistic because they believe that by the 2029 general election, the Labour Party may lose power. Optimistic because, given the current situation, they still believe that they can hold on until 2029. Which is too optimistic. Of course, Starmer's personality is also a big reason for the plummeting support rate. Other politicians often try to get closer to voters and the masses to increase their support rate. But he seems to have no interest in trivial matters like daily life. Recently, during an interview in Downing Street, a reporter asked him a few off-the-cuff questions, such as, "Mr. Prime Minister, have you been dreaming lately?" Starmer replied, "I don't. Do you have a favorite book?" "I don't like reading." "Well, for someone of your stature, you certainly don't read famous works?" "I don't read anything." "Then I guess you must have an idol? After all, your predecessors used to display pictures of their idols in Downing Street." "No, I don't follow celebrities. I mean, political stars. I don't follow them either." "Then you must have a hobby that's in common with the masses. Like running." "I don't have that." "Then you must have some hobbies. Right? I don't have any hobbies." "Okay, you're great. You're great. Okay? You don't have any hobbies and you're proud of it. Right? I'm not interviewing you anymore." Starmer lacks the self-promoting mind a politician should have. Other politicians try to connect with the masses and get closer to voters. But he does nothing but accept gifts. As for failing to close the budget deficit, instead of thinking about raising taxes on the richest, He announced the cancellation of winter HP benefits for the elderly and cuts to some benefits for the disabled. It's like the school food issue. All the students who ate lunch had stomach aches. And the headmaster immediately ordered that the students who didn't have stomach aches, they must have stolen the takeaway, and punished them all. Who would support him if he did that? In protest against Starmer's tyranny, the British people directly initiated a cyberbullying movement. They decided to burn a statue of Starmer at this year's bonfire festival. The so-called British Bonfire Festival originated from the Gunpowder Plot of 1605. A group of criminals plotting to assassinate the king and generals. The plot to assassinate King James I while he was speaking in Parliament was thwarted. And the public burned a statue of the mastermind, Guy Fawkes, to celebrate the victory. The movement later evolved into burning statues of unpopular public figures. On November 5, a statue of Starmer was erected in an open space. The statue wears a badge engraved with the words, Starmer, the peasant who harms others. And his left foot rests on a fireplace. A satire of his cuts to winter fuel subsidies. He wears a 17th-century hat and collar. A tribute to Guy Fawkes. A string of sausages hangs next to him. A reference to his speech at the Labour Congress last year, where he criticized Hamas and demanded the release of Israeli hostages, accidentally poisoning them and turning them into sausages, hence the name, sausage, for their release. Furthermore, the statue holds his campaign to-do list, such as not raising taxes, releasing illegal immigrants, and building 1.5 million homes, all of which are crossed out. The only item marked is appeasing Dong Zi. However, upon closer inspection, it seems that none of these promises have been fulfilled. The homes have yet to be built. The immigration authorities have not deported many people, yet taxes have increased. The most important problem is illegal immigration. They have been criticized for not deporting many people. And recently, human rights organizations have criticized them, calling them immoral. The reason was an unfortunate Iranian man who rowed a small boat to England, but was taken to France as soon as he landed. Not accepting this, he rowed back to England, but was taken back to France. When human rights organizations learned of this, they were extremely indignant. What kind of immoral government is this? The French government is immoral. The British government is immoral. Germany should stop them one by one. Is this the German system? Currently, the human rights organization Human Rights Network has contacted this Iranian man, planning to pay more money to bring him back to England. Now the British government realizes that it seems they have been fooled by France again. As mentioned earlier, the Anglo-French agreement stipulates that Britain will give France one illegal immigrant, and France will give Britain one legal immigrant. However, the problem is that French immigrants to Britain are legal and voluntary, once sent. They will not return. But British immigrants to France are not voluntary, once sent. They can return. Moreover, British human rights organizations, whether paid by France or not, are very active in helping France repatriate illegal immigrants. In this way, isn't Britain paying to bring 2 immigrants in? It's like not only beheading Louis XVI but also recycling his old phones for profit. In response, the British government warned human rights organizations not to even dream of rescuing them, because they would be deported. Everything they do is a waste of time and money. Maddie Harris, the communications director of a human rights organization, also condemned the Starmer administration for engaging in human trafficking and human rights abuses. He said that Starmer is the worst administration we have ever elected. I feel it is best not to make such statements lightly. It is like a teacher who always says, "You are the worst class one have ever taught." But think about it, if you teach the worst class every year, don't you feel ashamed? Who knows? The next administration might be even worse than Starmer. Of course, Starmer's situation is not much better. Not only are human rights organizations and illegal immigrants criticizing him, but many local residents also have bad feelings towards him because Starmer himself has realized it is impolite to send people everywhere like couriers, mainly because the transportation costs are too high. Moreover, the French always treat them like British citizens, so they are reluctant to send illegal immigrants to France for fear of being deported. So these people were simply planning to shelter immigrants. But the problem was, they had abolished the asylum hotel policy. So where should they send these people? Steiner thought, why not gather all these illegal immigrants and set up a camp? After all, it would be a concentration camp. So he decided to choose Inverness and East Sussex, because these areas had 2 abandoned British military bases. There was no need to build a camp, they could just let them live there. But after hearing about this, the locals protested. Illegal immigrants, don't send them here. Do you think we are a dumping ground? So the locals took to the streets to protest the government's decision, holding up banners that read, "Stop rewards and deportations." Lin Chuan's organization even tried to persuade the locals to show compassion. But they still resisted. Who feels sorry for us? If you feel sorry for us, why don't you take them home? You benefit. I suffer, right? It's like you're comparing credit lines with me. In a fit of rage, I borrowed money to buy a 10 gigabit broadband line, only to be told you're the one running it. No way. Seeing the growing anti-immigrant sentiment in the UK, Chancellor Reeves felt compelled to speak up. He replied that immigrants shouldn't ask what Britain can do for them, but what they can do for Britain. You can stay here, but only if you contribute financially to Britain. Those who don't understand can watch war documentaries. Even the extras in them work hard. What right do you have not to work hard? Then Lauren Gilbert, a global development researcher, published an article saying that it's not that immigrants don't work hard. It's that we don't work hard. In the article, he mentions that new immigrants are more likely to find jobs and earn higher incomes than British citizens. According to salary data from 2023-2024, the average income of foreign immigrants is actually higher than the average income of British residents aged 16 to 64. For example, the average salary of immigrants to the UK is £24.881, while the average salary of local residents is £23.990, a difference of £900. Furthermore, the labour force participation rate of non-British citizens is. This rate is also higher than that of ordinary British citizens. Why? Because many immigrants and illegal immigrants do not have access to public benefits. So they have to work hard. In other words, immigrants are creating wealth and supporting the British people. And many illegal immigrants are not useless. Not only do they demand low wages, but they also require good health. After all, people who can row small boats across the English Channel are strong people. You know, during the slave trade, how many black people survived shipwreck? And they had to pay for them. Now they are given to us for free. Why not take them? At that time, the British government was thinking the same thing. They also realized that the labor participation rate of the British people was really low. Especially the disabled. They did not work just because of their disabilities. This was unacceptable. On November 6, the British government issued an economic report, which made some suggestions to employers on how to keep the disabled and the chronically ill employed. The report also mentioned that the lack of labor due to illness and disability cost the UK GDP about 7% each year. Aren't you ashamed? Charlie Jesh, who was responsible for drafting the report, also believes that employers should support their employees. If someone has no legs, you should assign them manual labor. How can we let them stop working if we have no hands to assign them tasks? Employees should also do their part. They cannot give up because of small failures. I mean, work can be difficult, but it is part of life. Furthermore, Charlie proposes a new solution. Employees in healthcare facilities should share responsibility for workplace health, instead of just the National Health Service, NHS. In other words, stop bothering the government. If you are struggling, the government is struggling. If you are sick, try to endure. If you cannot, don't bother. As the saying goes, even a dying person can rise from a dead body and soar to new heights. What's wrong with employees coming to work? Charlie also proposed creating a system of workplace health services integrated with the UK health system. Monitoring your health daily to ensure you're never unable to work. If you're really sick, taking time off is no problem because government health facilities will issue permission. Minor illnesses don't require treatment, and severe illnesses are difficult to treat. Once treated, you're back at work, a one-stop service. When this report was published, it certainly caused a wave of protests across the UK. Dan White, a spokesman for Disability Rights UK, angrily declared that another report was politicizing economic issues. The report blames disabled people for underemployment. But I want to ask the government, can't you be more serious? Why can't the government write this report itself instead of outsourcing it? Yes, this report recommending employment for people with disabilities, although published on the official website of the British government, was actually commissioned by the government to a private organization. The author of this report is Charles Mayford, a British businessman who served as chairman of the Employment and Skills Committee for many years. He earned this title by flattering the royal family and has never really participated in the activities of the people. Angry disabled people's organizations claim that the report completely ignores their opinions because it is full of macro-level descriptions and fundamentally misunderstands that the lack of employment for people with disabilities is due to social and public barriers, such as rigid employers and top-down management culture, non-compliance with equality laws, and corporate culture that is intolerant of people with disabilities. The core issues are completely ignored. Is it all because we are lazy and do not work? In fact, in this rigid environment, only 2.5% of people on long-term sick leave return to work each year. And due to discrimination, most of them can only do low-paid, difficult, and extremely unstable jobs, such as delivery drivers, maid, barista, cafe staff, warehouse workers, farm workers, etc. But why don't these people go to factories? Does Britain even have factories anymore? The government even proposes that disabled people work in factories. The main question is, does the government still have factories? In today's deindustrialized environment, where are the factories in many parts of Britain? Disabled people can only participate in low-end service industries. How did Britain become like this? According to a research summary published by the British Hospital Library, by 2024, there will be 269,000 manufacturing companies in the UK, of which more than 250,000 are small and medium-sized enterprises, SMEs, with fewer than 250 employees. If you don't know whether this number is high or low, I can give you a comparison. By 2024, we have 6.03 million manufacturing companies, of which 2.46 million are in the equipment manufacturing industry alone. On the other hand, the UK only has a total of 269,000 manufacturing companies. They support the UK's national manufacturing economy, just like the shoes on Leon's feet. This shows their importance. From this chart, we can see that Britain's deindustrialization was actually very successful. In the 1970s, manufacturing accounted for 30% of the UK's GDP. Rare earth elements have now fallen to 8%, with a sharp decline starting in the 1980s. Margaret Thatcher played a major role in this. It is no surprise that rare earths have not been able to hold Britain back. They have essentially been self-imposed for decades, waiting for their enemies to lure them with honey traps. This tactic has not worked. From the data above, we can see that British manufacturing is currently understaffed. High-end service industries prioritize image and find it difficult to employ people with disabilities. Therefore, they cannot be limited to low-end services. It is difficult for the government to put them back to work. Given Britain's current status as a disabled nation, what right does Britain have to demand from other countries? While Britain still maintains some high-end industries, the problem is that these industries create few jobs and have high barriers to entry, making them inaccessible to most people, let alone people with disabilities. Earlier this year, more than 100 Labour MPs, along with other opposition members, protested against ministerial-led welfare reforms, threatening to block them. Starmer responded with a fierce move. "I'm going to change disability benefits. Let's see who's against me." The four Labour leaders who led the protest, Neil Jordan, Chris Sincliffe, Brian Leishman, and Rachel Musk, were all sacked. In my Great Britain, there's only one man who can really control the wind and rain. And that's the king. There's only one man who can really protect me. And that's me. And then he exposed himself again, because all four of them were recently reinstated by the Labour leader. Rumor has it that privately, after a few drinks, a Labour member of staff told a media friend that because Starmer, this dictator, was doing such a bad job, Labour MPs were plotting to find a suitable replacement. The reinstatement of these four people is a way to hope that these four people, the sharpest swords of my Great Britain, will lead a coup to overthrow Starmer. Just wait and see. There will definitely be big events happening in Britain later. Of course, these are just the news in the media at the moment, and we don't know how accurate they are. And perhaps no one is foolish enough to talk about a coup every day. Okay, as for whether the Labour Party will try to replace Starmer, we can only wait and see. Okay, that's the end of this video. If you like it, please like and subscribe. See you next time. Maybe I'll drop by sometime.